All right, peace, black family. So this video is about the shame that black people live with. Now, what inspired this video is Bootsy Badass just made a post, right? And his post was about the Jeffrey Dahmer documentary or series on Netflix.
Us as blacks, we need to ban this Jeffrey Dahmer movie. This is some sick shit. What he did to our race. This is some sick shit. We need to boycott this damn movie off Netflix. This is sick. This is sick. The victim family should be getting paid off every dollar Netflix made. This is fucking sick. We need to ban this Jeffrey Dahmer movie. This is some sick shit. It's sick.
Now, let me just say this. No disrespect to Bootsy or anybody who thinks like Bootsy, but we have to stop being ashamed of white people's actions. Because when we say things like, oh man, it's a slave movie, or man, they need to take this down, you know what I'm saying? Like, this should be a shame. There's not, like, we can't hide white people's shame. We shouldn't be ashamed of white people's behavior. We should want to watch as many slave movies as possible and look at that and say, that's who you are, white people. But because we ashamed that it happened to us, that we have been victimized, we have been duped, we have been mistreated, right? We get ashamed of that. That is a victim's mentality. When you are ashamed of what happened to you by somebody else, and you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to see it. That is a victim's mentality. Excuse me. It's the same thing with the girl or the woman who's been raped or molested. For a while, they might hold that in. And they don't want to talk about it. And they're ashamed because they feel like they did something wrong. They can't articulate the situation. They like, if I didn't do this, if I didn't do that, it doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter what you did. You could have went over that man's house drunk. You could go over the house with no panties on. Once you said no, no is no. It doesn't matter what Africans have done in history, so-called Africans, Africans into slavery, but you brought them Europeans. You brought them. You brought them to the Americas and implemented a race-based form of slavery. You did that. We should not be ashamed of that at all. You built a whole system on a group of back of people's backs. You did that. You oppress people. Why are we ashamed of that? Why are we ashamed to watch a Jeffrey Dahmer movie or a series? We should look at that, analyze that, and say, damn, we got to learn from our history. How could we be that stupid, that silly, and no disrespect to the victims and to the family of the victims, but how can we be that silly, that gullible, that this went on for so long? Why don't we see Yurugus for who and what they truly are? Because we don't want to face it. We don't want to watch the slave movies and not internalize it as something wrong with us, but something wrong with them. Something's wrong with them, the people who were enslaving, not the people who were enslaved, not the victims. Nothing's wrong with the woman that was raped or molested. There's something wrong with the person who was doing the molesting and the raping, not the victim. But because we've been given this pathology from Europeans, we run from the shame and we protect them in doing so. Take that down. I don't want to watch that slave movie. I don't want to watch Naomi. I don't want to watch Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't want to watch none of that. Ah! And we block ourselves out from it. And in doing so, we protecting them. We protecting them the same way the young girl who got raped and molested is protecting her rapist and molester by not saying nothing. You allowing this to happen again and again to other young girls. We have to realize the pathology and the thinking behind these ideas. When people say, oh, you keep talking about the past, that's a victim mentality. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's letting you know, I know what you have done to me in the past, and I won't let you do it again. That's not victim mentality. I know how I got in this situation today. I have studied you and watched you, and now I will not let that happen again. Yes, I will continue talking about slavery until we understand how slavery affects us today. Oh, you just blame shifting. You just, nope. You're not going to move in my square. You're not. I'm going to talk about slavery. Yes, I am. Because knowing my history, knowing that there are people like, look, if we would have learned from Jeffrey Dahmer, we wouldn't have people like Ed Buck, who was out here doing the same thing to black people and in the same community. Black people who identify with the LBGT community. This is your history. It's black history, but this is your history. You ain't learned from Jeffrey Dahmer. That's why you had Ed Buck come up and do the same thing. Drugging black people, black men, and doing all that type of stuff like that. We got to pay attention. And this is what happens when you put your sexuality before your race. Because we in a system of oppression, of racism. Sexuality can come later. But that's not a here nor there right now. We're not even going to get on that. But the point I'm trying to say is that we run from that shame. And we ain't learned from Jeffrey Dahmer. And there's in between Jeffrey Dahmer and Ed Buck, there are plenty of white people and white Hispanics who have done the same thing to black people. But because we don't want to study the history, because we don't want to watch it, we scared of it, we were ashamed of it, we don't learn from it. When will we understand that history is the most important study in life? Without history, you have no science, you have no math, you have no astrology, because all these things we created when? In history. And therefore they tell a story that we need to know. History is very important. Everything you are today is from experiences that have happened to you in the past. When you say, I ain't doing that again. I remember I was dating this girl and that's you learning from your history. But when it comes to racialized history, we don't want to learn from that. We don't want to learn from that because that seems racist. We don't want to learn from that. We'll learn from personal experiences, right? Because you have two forms of history. You have personal history and racialized history, meaning personal things that have happened to you in history, right? Personally. And then there are things that happen to us racially in history as an African group. But we don't want to learn from that. And again, no disrespect to Boosie or anybody who thinks like Boosie. You feel what I'm saying? Because a lot of us, we don't know pathology. We don't know the psychology behind things. We just waking up every day and just living our lives to our best of our abilities, but we don't actually dive deep into psychoanalytic thinking. We don't go into that. Why am I ashamed of slavery? I was not the one raping people in the middle of the night and making mixed breed children. I was not the one lynching people. This is why in our history, you have black towns that we don't even know about. Like we're just learning about Black Wall Street because people were ashamed and afraid to speak about Black Wall Street. We just learning about what's the city in Georgia, Lake Erie or something like that. We just learning about whole black cities that was put underwater because white folk, Urugu, decided to flood these whole black cities. And black people were ashamed of that and ran to different cities and never talked about it. We cannot be ashamed of their dysfunction. Why are we ashamed of their dysfunction, of their craziness? Why? There are many different things black people can be ashamed about. That ain't one of them. And that's why we just now learn our history, because a lot of us were scared to talk about it. We ran away from it. We hid from the lynchings. The reason we know about the lynchings and we know the names is because white folk documented it. White folk took these postcard pictures next to the bodies and shared it around and passed it around. That's the reason we know about it, not because black folk was talking about it, because white folk was sharing it. That's crazy. That's crazy. And that's a victim mentality. To have a people mistreat you and then you scared to talk about it. You don't want to see it. That's a victim mentality. Not standing up about it. Not that when you stand up about it, you take on a warrior mentality. That's what it means to be a warrior. Let me see what you about. Let me address this head on. Let me watch this slave movie. Oh, that's how y'all was doing us? Okay. All right. That's how y'all was using us against each other on the plantation? Oh, okay. That's what y'all doing, buck breaking. That's okay. Guess what? Now I know the tricks of the trade. But when you don't want to see it, you don't want to watch 12 Years a Slave, you don't want to watch these movies and you run from it, you only perpetuating and keeping alive the things we don't know. Because as we all know, the saying goes, those who do not know their history cannot learn from their history. But those who know their history can learn from the success of their history and the failures within their history. But if you don't know something, you cannot defeat it. Any doctor you go to gonna ask you your family history. Do you have a history of diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, etc.? They gotta know your history to fix you. You gotta know your history to fix yourself. When you go to a psychiatrist, they sit down and ask you, well, how was your relationship with your father? How was your relationship with your mother? How was your childhood? They gotta know your history to fix you. One of the most reasons why we sick in this black African community is because we don't want to honestly look at our history to fix ourselves. Personal or racial. Personal or racial. We don't want to look at our history. We lie about molestation in our families. We lie about, all the things. We avoid them. We run away from them. And if you're avoiding your history, then you're going to avoid being honest. You're going to avoid, all the important things in our community. You create now a pathology of avoidance. You avoid talking about things because you're avoiding your history. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. But anyway, with that being said, man, enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend. Try to spend as less money as you can with the Yurugu. Why is this homeless white man always in my videos? He's always in my videos just begging. Always. Your buddy, you had a 400-year head start. It ain't my fault you blew slavery, okay? You had a 400-year head start. You in a culture that look at him. Look at him. You in a society that is built around your whiteness, and you asking me for money. Come on now with the shenanigans. You asking me for money. Every dang on statue in America is a white man. Every book I done read is about a white man in school. And it ain't my fault you failed. You had a 400-year head start. All right? Well, Paul Mooney used to say, just a waste of whiteness. A waste of whiteness. Nevertheless, man, hope y'all enjoy y'all Friday, man. Spend as less money as you can. You do not have a money problem. You have a psychological problem connected to money, okay? And connected to the symbolisms and all those things like that. Stack your bread, man. Leave something for your children, And if you don't have no children, leave it to your nieces and nephews. Leave it to your community, man. White people have trust funds where when they die, they can't get the money. They can't become millionaires. And at least Negroes could do is leave something for their niece, nephew, uncle, somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like the revolution is not simply going to take place in your generation. The revolution is ongoing. But with that being said, we got this victim mentality. We got to stop watching these movies, especially if these movies are connected to the relationship between black and white people, and look at them honestly and say, dang, I know who y'all are now. Ooh, I know who y'all are. Like, we got to start facing that reality. But until next time, think black, stay black, love black, support black. And that's real African black power.